What's up, gorgeous? Welcome to the Fierce Framework podcast, where we talk about becoming fierce through messy action, baby steps, and cultivating confidence. I'm your host, Mary Beth. I'm an ADHD kid with a dream to see more women breaking out of the box society tells us we're supposed to fit into and start living life more on our own terms. This podcast is designed to inspire you and give you practical steps to start living life aligned with your values and making regular progress towards your dreams. I believe the world benefits when you show up as your full self and you're living life lit up. So let's talk about how to do that. I am so excited to introduce you to my friend Kristina. We've had so many great conversations together, and from like the first time we were met, it was like we got to get on a podcast and chit chat because she just has like so many like powerful, impactful things to say. And every time I have a conversation with her, I'm like, dang girl, like we gotta record you. So we finally coordinated and got a podcast together. So I am so excited to share this interview with you. Not only is Kristina a badass who has fearlessly pivoted through multiple different career fields and does not back away from a challenge or from speaking up when things need to be said. I admire her so much, and I know you're going to fall in love with her because she's amazing. She is a leadership expert, consultant, and a speaker. She is passionate about bridging generational gaps in the workplace. So she's specializing in helping organizations harness the power of generational diversity, basically helping like the different generations work well together, which is so important because like we love to make jokes about it. I love to follow TikTok accounts that make jokes about it, how the different generations are just so different and work differently. And so she has made it her mission to bridge those generational gaps and empower people to work better together. So, through her speaking and consulting, she is reshaping how organizations view and approach multi generational collaboration for more dynamic and a future ready workforce, which I think is so exciting. And I cannot wait for you to get to meet her. So, without further ado, I loved when you were starting to talk about like getting into starting your own business and how you talk to the people around you and kind of ask them to speak to your strengths and your natural abilities and like those descriptors. I think one of the hardest things and super hard for me is like figuring out what to do.
Mm.
It could do a whole podcast episode on that. It took me so long to figure out what I want to do. And now I'm like a lot more open to it. And I'm like, this is what I'm doing right now. I will probably pivot later because now I've learned that's a normal part of life.
Right.
But it was like the hardest thing figuring out what to do. And so if you would share more about like how you did that,
Mm.
I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So, well, the first thing I would tell you is because, and this is a learning from what I've done, because my first business was trying to get into not financial planning or advice, but I originally started a financial education business really for with my
Yeah.
family in mind, right?
Oh,
So I've
cool.
got a very large family, and there were a lot of gaps in I'll say our mutual understanding around finances. And so
That's
I was
important.
looking to go on a journey and to share that. And so I did that for quite some time and never made a single dime. No, I think I made $8, right? Um,
Gotta start somewhere.
you gotta start somewhere. And did it, totally hated it. Once it's felt
Yeah.
like a job and it's like, "Oh, I have to write another blog. Oh, I have to." It's like, "Hold on, pull the plug. This
Hmm.
is not right." And I will tell you, you don't know what you're gonna hate or not enjoy or even really enjoy until you just do. Right? You
Yeah.
said this early. You have got to try. If your thought is, "Let me put out a blog to talk about these things because these are the things that I wanna say, and it lasts 5 blogs." Okay, fine. Take the action and do it. Write
Hmm.
it, publish it, put it out there. Why the hell not? Because you may get to the 5th one and be like, "You know what? Okay, I've run that race, and that was a sprint. and not a marathon, so it's over. I'm done. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What next? Because the whole purpose of doing it is the taking of the action and starting to achieve some of those small little wins.
Mhm.
That's what gets you to the bigger thing that you're gonna do, right?
Yeah.
It's like, pick a major, go pick a college, pick a major, pick a future, that you want to have, right?
Right.
Nobody knows going into college what the hell they wanna do,
Yeah.
right? And if they pick a major, it's usually influenced by their parents or people around them,
Yeah.
right? I mean, look at if you have a degree, what is it in? Are you doing that thing now? Probably not,
Probably not.
right? I'm not.
Right?
So, I mean, unless it's going to get a licensure, most of us are not,
Mhm.
right? We did it for the purpose of getting the piece of paper so we could meet a minimum requirement so we can get into a job.
Mhm.
That's it. But so I'll tell you is, and you said this was just to take the action, right? To
I do say
do,
that.
right? Stop thinking about doing and do it. Try something. Right? You can think about that thing that you want to achieve, right? I'd love to be able to having a coaching business around XYZ. Okay, well,
Mhm.
what is one step you can take today that will start to get you towards achieving that future? And it
Okay.
cannot, and we were talking about this the other day, the difference between the in your business and on your business, right? So, and thank you for giving me the analogy because now I'm clear about employee versus CEO. I was like, it eluded me every time in on, I don't know what the hell it was. But it's gotta be, and it's gotta be really in the executive energy, right?
Mm.
Because I am really good at putting together tip sheets, assessments, courses. Like I will bury myself into my computer and not talk to anybody,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
The and so, because that's a strength. I have volumes of content, right? "Oh, you write a
Mhm.
post about that."
Mhm.
Absolutely. Will it ever get published? No, right? So, it's the taking of the action. It's the working on your business. If you have this thing that you want to achieve, why don't you think of one person or 3 people who may be able to, or you can say, "I'm thinking of doing this thing. What are your thoughts, right? What
Mhm.
is your
Mhm.
experience with this?" And ask them for insight just to start having a conversation because they'll ask you questions like you did a couple weeks ago, right? And that helps you to get clear.
Yeah.
Like, oh, damn, I never even thought about that.
And the 1 to 3 people. I think with social media, like, I love blaming social media, but really, I do think that's impacted, like, the way we measure our impact. It
Mm,
feels like there's this expectation that you have to have, like, a huge launch, and you have to, like, blast all over social media and, like, do something real big. And it's like, yeah, I mean, if that's what you want, hopefully you grow to that place. But like at the end of the day, we're all still people. So you're probably going to have better luck if you go and talk to and invite one, two, three people in real life,
yes,
see what happens.
yes,
Because like you can
yes,
blast stuff on social media until you're blue in the face. But if you invite someone or you have a conversation with someone, it's so much more influential.
yeah. We're humans and we strive, the only thing we want is to connect.
Mm,
Right? And when you give them an opportunity to resonate with you, I mean, it's assuming what it is you're offering is something that they want, right?
right.
But when you give them an opportunity to really connect on a human level, most people, like if it's what they need and what they want, absolutely, right?
Mm.
I have seen people have banging businesses and they don't have a huge following. Right?
Yeah.
They don't have huge email list or anything like that because it's not about that. The I used to be chasing followers and connections and all that stuff, and no, oh god, that's none of that has given me anything.
Hmm.
Not at all. The greatest value I've ever had is one building a community of
Mm.
other people who are also too out here trying to figure it out together,
Mhm.
and connecting with that community because we get off into our tangents and we go into our corners, right? And we don't and maybe sometimes it's because we don't take the actions that we think we should, and so we're measuring ourselves against even one another. We're looking to the left and the right of us, and it's cliche to say, but we've all heard it. The only competition is who you were yesterday. That's it. That's it. And to be honest,
Yeah.
and then your ideal customer is who you were 3 days ago, right? Like 3 years, 2 to
Right.
3 years ago. That's who your audience should be. And you're like, "Well, but I'm doing this thing that 3 years ago I wouldn't have even cared about." Well, then you're probably doing the wrong thing,
Oh.
right? Like 3 years ago, what did I need? Well, 2 years ago, I quit my corporate job. And who did I need 3 years ago? I needed somebody to tell me that there was another way outside of working for a company.
Mm.
That's who I needed. So,
Yeah.
what does that look like? What are the pains that you were experiencing then?
Mhm.
Try to solve some of those problems for them because you're going to approach that from such an authentic space.
Mhm.
And the question you had earlier about your tools and how to identify them before people started telling you who you should be, if you have any early memories, and maybe it's photos. I mean, I don't remember anything before 5, and I think that's out of survival. Most of us, right? Like, it's painful to grow up, right? Like, our parents made mistakes with us, and if we
Yeah.
could remember all of them, we would probably be pissed. Um, but total tangent. But I would say is think about the things that you truly loved doing, even in your adolescence, right? In your
Mhm.
childhood.
Mhm.
Those things are gonna show you who you what you probably should be leveraging.
Mhm.
Um, one thing for me was music. Music has always been a huge influence on my life. It's probably the only regret that I have of actually not actually going into some type of music related field,
Oh, wow.
right? And I never thought it was possible. It's like 'cause I'm an introvert, I don't wanna be in front of the camera, right? I can sing only a little bit, and only my family gets to hear that, so, sorry for them. And modeling, I hate that. Please stop looking at me, like, "What is going on? I need to be a perfect size?" Like, "You can fuck all the way off," right? So it's like, those were the only ways I saw that you could enter into some type of entertainment, music area, and so
Mhm.
but I will tell you, my early pictures are all of me, like, putting on shows for my family, right? Painfully, absolutely. I would put on shows for, align all of my Barbie dolls and my Cabbage Patch Kids. Yes, I've dated myself again. Um, because that's what I loved doing, and I would work by myself so well, putting on major productions.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm gonna bring us back. So, let me stop talking.
I was gonna ask, like, there's a couple things I wanted to ask. I'm so curious to know, like, what you pivoted to after the finance journey.
Oh,
But then I also am like, you're talking about like the productions and everything and drawing on the things you loved as a kid. And I'm so curious to know, like, how are you incorporating that? How has that
mm.
guided you to a more like, not to overuse authentic, but to a more like authentic space in your business? Because like you're not in production, right?
No.
So I would love to like for you to share that so that our audience can see like how might I be able to draw on that without being like, "Oh, I have to play the piano on stage or nothing." Does that
Yeah.
make sense what I'm asking?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, I will tell you how I'm pursuing that now is to recognize that the the businesses that I work with can also be in the entertainment business. Because of 25 years in healthcare, I have pigeonholed myself into, oh, that's my only network. Those are the only people who know me. And that's the only space that I have any expertise in. That's all a lie. All
Talk
right.
about it. Come on.
It's the tools that transfer across all of the industries.
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
get the opportunity to now start to be kind of adjacent to, um, because I've got such a deep love and appreciation for music and
Mm,
the history of music and how it evolved. And so what came to me was, a friend of mine works for a major entertainment label. Um, and so I was able to have a conversation with some people there about doing some work with them. And that fills my cup
mm,
because now I can start to see how I could actually position myself in a way that is aligning with, what I feel was maybe a missed opportunity. I'm able to leverage that now because it's the work I love to do, and now I can start to align it with a passion that I also have. So
yeah.
that's one way. Does that answer? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, and I love that because it's like so much more broad than, at least for me, than I would like originally think,
Mm,
And so I'm really glad you gave that example because I feel like it kind of opens the possibilities of how we can pursue the things that we love and that we're passionate about, even though it might not look like the three or four examples you've seen in your life. There might be like a new way to do it, or you might be able to like tweak it a little bit to where you're incorporating what you love, even though it might not like fit into the normal box of what you would think someone who loves music would do with their life.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and think about it. There's only one Taylor Swift, but there are at least 5 or 10,000 people who support, right? Who
Yeah,
make Taylor Swift production possible.
right.
And that's outside of the tours, that's thinking about the labels, of thinking about from a social perspective. There are
Mm,
so many people who make these icons, possible. And that's just a high level example. But think
mm,
about, if you are a lawyer and you went into contract law and you're like, I totally hate this, but entertainment law is, kind of adjacent to it, right?
yeah,
And you're just learning a different way to use the tools you already have,
I love that.
right? And to align and sometimes you don't know this until you just what does it take the action and start having the conversation, right? Because
Yep.
I mean, we will not give ourselves any flowers, but we will also to think that we know everything that could possibly go wrong, right? So here are all of the excuses, and there are at least 10,000 of them about why I will not take that action because when I do,
Ugh.
all of these 10 actions become activated, right? They're gonna hate me, they're gonna judge me, they're gonna think that I'm, stupid for asking them. They already know these things, and so they're gonna look at me like I'm dumb for even asking the question. All of
Dang.
these things that will run through our head, AKA the limbic system, that's like, this is comfort, right? We're under our down comforter. Why are you trying to get us out there in the thorn
Mhm,
fields?
mhm,
You know? So it's it's all because we are challenging the norm
mm.
and trying to do something different. It doesn't mean we're gonna fail.
The call out of like, how are you gonna not give yourself any credit, but you're convinced that though you think you can tell the future. Like, you won't celebrate your wins, but you think you know all the possible scenarios that are
Yes.
okay. Give yourself some credit somewhere. You are either all knowing or you're good at something. Like you gotta get 3 wins out of this one or the other. You can be a fortune teller, like, I don't care.
That's right.
Oh my
It's like
god.
we have the
So
audacity to doubt
attacked.
ourselves and to come up with all of the rejections before anybody
Confidently.
ever.
Confidently. Never been more sure of anything in my life. Oh my god, I can't.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So I still wanna know, because I just love it. I love talking about the pivots. Like, you went from corporate, um, in the healthcare in this field, and then to personal finance, like teaching your family, sharing your journey,
Let
and
me
like yeah, no,
let
go
me give
ahead.
you the time. Yeah, timeline is I started a finance blog while I was still in corporate. Did that for, I don't know, probably about a year, hated it and left it alone. Still in corporate. Meanwhile, I was not highly enjoying my job in corporate and made connections into consulting. So my network brought me connections to somebody. I started applying to other positions, didn't get a job that I really wanted, but it was me going back 15 years because it was something I had done early on in my career and I could do it in my sleep. And they told me no. And that was the best thing could ever happen because otherwise I would have just been on a cycle of where I
Yeah,
was
it probably didn't
before.
feel like the best thing in the moment though, right?
Oh, no, it didn't feel great, right? Like, it felt like a punch in the throat. Um, I mean, I was
Yeah.
1 of 2, so that felt kinda good, but, yeah, and then they wanted to offer me, like, the subordinate role to that role, and I was like, "You're cute.
Yeah. You're
That's
like, I know
enough."
I'm trying to like get over my ego, but I still have one. Like a thief for real right now. Okay. So
Right?
when
So
you stopped
mhm,
loving the finance, like what got you from that side gig to your next thing? Like
uh,
that got you to decide to like close that chapter and then how did you figure out what to try next?
oh, okay, so I got into consulting, and that paid my bills, and It
Helpful to have
I
those things.
enjoyed that work, made a lot of money, doing that, but then I also too knew and it was always part of my conversation in that space that I wanted to figure out, like, what I wanted to do, because I
Okay.
no longer wanted to collect a paycheck, right? I didn't want to trade time for money. I was so over asking anybody if I could spend time with my family, and
Right.
here's a sidebar on that one. I had to well, I'll say this. My leader was a highly understanding when, um, my son at the time was having some struggles with depression, and he came
Mhm.
to me one day and he said, "Mom, I need you today." And so, without a question, right, I told my boss, "I'm not going to be in today." It was the realization in that moment of recognizing that I had to tell another human on this planet, right? That I wasn't going to be there because I needed to be there for my son.
Yeah.
That was like, okay, yeah, I'm done. I'm so done with all of this
And then to be
because
grateful that your boss let you.
thank you. Exactly. So, and it was never a question because we were always family first. But that also too told me that I did not have time freedom, and that actually is what meant more to me. And so
Mm.
I started taking steps to leave. I left, started consulting, and I just started trying things. You know, um I had a little bit of money to kind of spend on a coach, so I
Nice.
was like, okay. So I invested in a coach to help me with uh honestly with LinkedIn sales. And at the time, I had no idea what I wanted to sell. What was I selling? What does Christina represent? What's her service, right?
Mhm.
I knew I was not going to make a bunch of digital products. I wasn't going to print t-shirts and blah blah blah. That's not my path. And so I said, as of like the time of meeting with that sales coach, I, just kind of said, oh, well, I think what I want to do is to help women with their careers, right? Women like me who are so fed up and they're ready to take a leap.
Mhm.
Well, I figured that turned out not to be the right niche for me, and so then I just started. I have invested. I will not disclose the amount. An awful lot of money in coaching programs and courses and a ton of things. And I wouldn't change how I've spent any of that money because all of it helped me to kind of test that's for me, that's not for me, right?
Mm.
And I have spent, and you know this, I have spent an awful lot of money on a program that I actually ended up saying no to after I had already spent the money.
Yeah.
And I completely walked away because I said, I fe- I actually trusted myself and my
Mhm.
energy told me this was no longer aligned.
Mhm.
I bought it at a time where I thought that that's what I needed to hold on to in order to
Mhm.
achieve this thing, and that ended up not being true. So I said, "I'm not going to invest any more of my time because my time is more valuable than that money I spent."
Okay.
So, and that was okay, let's just be honest, that was a $5,000 program, and it's
Yeah.
not because
That's
I'm a
very true.
rich girl, because that ain't the case, right? But that money was already out the door. And I
Yeah.
knew it could not benefit me any longer because there was no longer the alignment. I had the clarity
Mm,
in the structure that I needed. I needed specifically to have it was a different skill that I needed to develop. And it turns out it was because I needed to do this inner work and I needed to get clear and stop being scared about actually doing those big things because this was me playing small, thinking I
mhm,
needed to just put together this little program and ask for these little dollars when
mhm,
everything about everything I was doing was saying, you are meant for this massive thing. Right? You you keep trying to speak at the local high school when you're meant to be center stage at, well, there's no speaking at the Super Bowl, but speaking on a on a global stage,
yeah,
right? That stop being limited by it's like I'm trying to cover my own shine. That was a lot of the work I had to do to realize, and my coach tells me all this time. She's like, "You're a freaking lighthouse. Everyone is supposed to see you, right?" And and that's been hard to kind of, to really adopt that because it's like the introvert in me is like, "Cover that light. What the hell? What are we doing?" Right?
yeah,
Like, blow out the candle, right? We're not meant to shine that far. We don't want people to see us because of all of the stories we tell ourselves about why we're undeserving, right, of
mhm,
anybody seeing our light
mhm,
because we've experienced it before and we've had adverse responses to it.
mhm,
People have done what they could to dim our light and we've let them. We've let them because we don't give another other people enough credit. Those who fight to dim your light are those who see it. They see your light and they're like, "Oh hell no. This bitch can't outshine me." Right? That's what that is.
come on.
So you have to recognize that that's what it is. They're showing you. That's why, they say like to have haters, oh, that means you're doing it right. Because nobody cares about anybody who's out here just like piddling around,
Right,
right? There's a reason that there's an A-list celebrity list and a B list, and then the rest doesn't even exist,
right.
right? Oh, that was just somebody who did that thing that one time.
Mm. Hey, so we're always talking about our dreams and making progress towards our goals on this podcast. But what if you don't know where to start, right? Maybe you're so full of amazing ideas that you have a hard time narrowing it down and picking something to start with. Or maybe after years of not having a say, you don't even know what you like or what you want anymore. Either way, I got you, okay? I created a free course that's just for you. It's a 5-day training on how to find your focus. It's super easy because all you gotta do is you sign up, and I'm gonna deliver a lesson to your inbox every day. The course is all about helping you hone in on what lights you up so that you can focus on one thing at a time and start making progress towards your dream. It's super easy to sign up. You can go to thefierceframework.myflowdesk.com/focus. I know it's kind of long. Thefierceframework.myflowdesk, that's my FLO desk.com/focus. I've also got the link in the show notes, or you can always DM me at the Fierce Framework and I'll hook you up. I am so proud of you for like making that decision with the program because I think we're we're consistently told to like lean on experts and to look to advice for other people. And as you said, like you believe in programs and in coaching and investing in yourself in that way. And I'm on board with that. I love it. And I love that like you can say that that's important and valuable and at the same time still say I know what's best for me and that program wasn't it.
Yeah.
Because what is all that money and time for? The coaches, the program to invest in you. And so instead of like following the program blindly because this is what we're doing because that's where the money went, the way that you like took that agent like words, right? Um like had that agency over yourself and you're like, I'm doing this for me. So if this is no longer the right thing for me, I can still let that go. Like I'm not required to follow through on this program because that's the best thing. I get I get to identify what the best thing for me is because I know myself.
Yep.
And like just like both those things at once, I think is so impressive. Because I think a lot of us like tend to lean towards one or the other. You know, we're constantly second guessing ourselves and like trying to get somebody else to tell us what to do, or we're not willing to invest in ourselves in the form of getting input from coaches or programs or people who have gone before us. Um, so I really admire that about you, about how you can do both, and you know that all the coaching, all the money, like that's an investment in you. So at the end of the day, the whole point comes down to like doing what is right for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the fact that you use the word agency, right? Because you
Oh,
really
good, because I
have
was
to.
tripping over it.
No, you're good, and you're absolutely right because you have to. It's part of, and this has taken me a really long time to get to this point of finding my voice and to really embrace my own agency to be able to make decisions for myself.
Mm,
Right? And there are a lot of things in my past that where I lean on others to make decisions, on others to support me, on others to make things happen. I got to tell you, I am real quick to cut people off, really quick, because it's like I'm identifying what doesn't align with the future I'm building. And it's no shade in any way. It has more so to do with the fact that, listen, I know that we're not aligned, and that's perfectly fine. But I'm
yeah.
also too on a moving train that's not gonna stop for anybody. I have to do that. I have to put myself first, not just because of obligations that I have, because I actually have the greatest obligation to myself
Mm,
because I hushed myself for decades. And it's been the last 10, probably 10 years that I have been developing my voice.
mm,
And those who have not been able to embrace it, right? Then it's like, no problem. I don't have to speak your language. I speak mine, right?
yeah.
And being able to kind of take that power back, that has not been an easy journey for me. Right. So I don't want anybody thinking that this just kind of like snap like that. Oh, good. I can just, choose to do that.
Right.
You can get all the help and support from anybody who you love and admire in your life. It means nothing if you don't actually put your opinion of yourself and what's right for you higher than what anybody else thinks. Because and that's what that came down to, and I don't
Yeah.
think I realized that I had that power until I said, "Wait a minute.
Mm,
I choose how I spend my time,
mhm,
and that is no longer aligned, and okay, so I'm going to find what is." So, my everything part of me would have been like, "But girl, we spent all that money. Why don't we at least go and, 10 to 10 to 10?" It was gonna be an awful lot of time. And I said, "My time is more valuable than devoting it to something that I know is not aligned for me." So,
that's
yeah.
a power move, bro. So,
That's growth in like the last honestly, that's growth in the last year. Yeah, I'd
yeah.
say that.
I love it too because I think so often like there's this idea that like I am her or I'm just not. And I think absolutely not. I think we're constantly growing and evolving. And you had mentioned a couple times about like dating yourself. So it's not like you have this all figured out in your 20s and that you're like 16 right now with like everything. Like so I'm mostly saying this for like anyone who's listening who is younger because I'm 35, so I'm also not like a little baby anymore. Immature, just not a baby.
Oh god.
But like give yourself some grace, right? Like give yourself some time because this takes a lifetime. Like it's taken
Yes,
your whole life to get where you are. And so like that's part of why we can't compare ourselves, right? So I
that's
love that
right.
it's like an inspiration to people who are at a different place in their journey, but also it's like that reminder and that encouragement that like, hey, this is a journey. You've learned so much. I think the past 10 years, right? And then it's still this last year, you're still learning so much. So,
Absolutely. The journey doesn't honestly, when the journey ends, it's like it's a sad day. because I have learned more about who I am in the last 3 years
Mm.
than I probably ever have, like, in all the years before. I'm about to turn 45 in a month, and I gotta tell you, I never imagined that this is what my 40s look like, just, like, continuing to pivot and transition and figure out what the hell, totally stepping away from a job, of the security, and but it's been so empowering to say, "Listen, you absolutely can do this. You just
Mm.
have to decide and give yourself permission to do it and to try." And it's not something like my 22-year-old son is he is out earning me. That kid is putting me to shame, right? And I love it. I
Yeah.
appreciate it because he's also to an inspiration about, like, kinda new ideas and how to approach things. He has pivoted at least 5 or 6 times,
And he's
right?
only
He's
22.
grown. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he has been wild on social media for, God, at least 8 years, and
Wow.
has grown massive followings and accounts that have totaled, like, 1,000,000 followers,
Wow.
and like, how can you like, I used to have, like, comparison, identity issues with my son, like, "How the heck you got these big old
Yeah.
accounts?"
Yeah.
Right? And so, that's what I mean, like, it has nothing to do with the size of the following and all that stuff, it has
Mm.
everything to do with the alignment of the intentions, right? The intentions with your
Yeah.
actions, and but all of that to say is that it doesn't matter where you are in your journey. It matters that you are believing in yourself and two, that you are taking the action towards that belief.
Mm. That's like the mic drop. I always like to close the interview by asking, like, what is a piece of advice that you would give somebody who's, like, just trying to get started or, like, not sure that they're the type of person who can do what they wanna do? And I love what you just said with the action and the belief, and I feel like that
Mhm.
totally addresses that question. But if you have anything to add, any advice you'd love to share as we close here, I would appreciate it.
I will say this, I have heard, I don't own this and I'm not going to quote it, I'm just going to speak about it that I've heard someone say recently is that if you can dream it, it is absolutely for you.
Mm,
Right? And we talk ourselves out of our dreams all the time for all the reasons we've covered. And, but don't, do not be the first one to tell yourself no. Like, come on,
right? Okay.
right? It's like all of the rejection excuses, the 10,000 list that we say, like I am incapable of doing that thing. And here are all the things that opposition I'm going to be met with. No. Do not be the first one to tell yourself no. Even if 10 people line up to tell you no, that's fine. Those 10 people are not for you. If you can dream it, it's absolutely meant for you. And you will
Mhm.
never know until you try. Not until you start writing down an outline and figuring out a business plan. No, you don't need a business plan to start.
Tell them.
You need a business plan when you need other people to invest in you. You don't
Come
need
on.
a business plan to
Yes.
start. Don't be your own in-house hater. What are we doing?
Right. Right. You have to live with you. Come on now. It's crazy. Well, thank you so much. This was so good. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much, Mary Beth. This has been awesome. I've had such a
Oh,
great
yeah.
time, Mary Beth. And let's do this again. I love
Yes.
talking to you.
Thank you so much for joining us for my interview with Kristina. I hope you love her as much as I do. She's just a wealth of knowledge and insight and encouragement, and she's so fabulous. I have included Kristina's links in the description. So thank you so much for joining. I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, keep becoming fierce.